Hello everyone and welcome in this webinar. So I'm Grégory Châtel. I'm associate professor at the Savoie-Mont-Blanc University and the director of the Chimie Verte Academy. And we are really happy to see so many of you joining us today. We are several hundred participants connected now for this inspiring webinar on green chemistry. And this event is co-organized by the Chimie Verte Academy and the Sustainable Chemistry Division of the French Chemical Society. And to begin, I will first give the floor to Dominique Augustin, who is here today representing the Sustainable Chemistry Division. So Dominique, if you want to say a few words about French Chemical Society.
Yeah, thank you, Gregory, and then hello to everyone. So it's a real pleasure today to be co-organizer with the Chimie Verte Academy of this fantastic webinar. So let's just present the French Chemical Society for some of you who might not know. So French Chemical Society is more than 150 years old and organized in different division, regional one that you can see on the right. It disappeared, the images. Uh, I don't know, it is moving. Uh, so regional one on the right, as you can see with all those plots that are all the regional division. And then on the left, all the scientific divisions that are existing. So organic, physical, chemistry, etc. And some interdivision. And then among them, sustainable chemistry is the one in which we are together also with Gregory and who co-organizes today. Maybe some other points, I don't know if you can. Yeah, just what is French Chemical Society doing? We are mostly a networking association with all the scientific division and regional section, as well as a young chemist groups that you certainly know for some of them. We have also this Actualité Chimique with a book about the French Chemical Society, and then we promote our researcher through awards and distinctions. And then we support also the student through different topics, hi Frank, and with some support for students and then our researcher to some congresses. Then maybe to finish, we have what we organize today in the Sustainable Chemistry Division. We have some prizes, as you can see. This year, the prize for the division has been given to Thomas Dardet, with you can see in the green frame. But also we organize other type of webinars with this Mardi de la Chimie Durable. So it's written on Tuesday, but it's not all the time on Tuesday. Or we co-organize with industrial division of the French Chemical Society some meetings, especially this the transition pathway for the chemical industry. This was organized last year. And join us in November, because in November we have in Strasbourg the third Sustainable Chemistry Day. So you have here the website. Try to see if for registering. We will be really delighted to receive you there. Then just very simple, the Congress in 2026, a national Congress with all the division gathered in one place will be this next year, in Bordeaux in June. And then there will be also one weekend for vulgarization, I would say, popularization of the chemistry. And here is the membership fees for 1 year, just for the student who are here lower master student or lower than master student. With the electronic journal, Actualité Chimique in electronic format, it is free for you. So do not hesitate to be the member. And then for the other one, they are quite cheap. And then I will stop now because I think the best is to learn about green chemistry. Just to say that Franck Launay is here also, that he is the president of the French Chemical Society. Hi, Franck.
Thank you, Dominique. I'm sorry for being late.
Roland, thank you, Dominique and Frank. So let me tell you a few words about the Chimie Verte Academy. I know that some of you are already familiar with it, but for others, this may be your first time knowing about it, so it is a perfect opportunity for a short introduction. The Chimie Verte Academy is a project funded by the French government through the France 2030 program under the Skill and Jobs for the Future initiative. So its full title is Attract, Train and Support towards an innovative and sustainable green chemistry for a decarbonized and circular economy. So as you can imagine, our ambition is to transform chemistry education in France with a strong focus on green chemistry. To achieve this, we have built a national consortium that brings together 5 universities, each offering a master's degree in green chemistry. That's our starting point. And these universities are supported by many partners, competitiveness clusters, national training networks, institutional organizations, industrial partners and professional associations, and of course the French Chemical Society as a key scientific partner. So our consortium is built on a balanced governance between academia and industry. This is really essential for us to reconnect these two worlds and to ensure that our educational programs truly match the evolving needs of the chemical industry. So our project, which received 3.5 million euros in funding for its first 5 years, is organized around these 3 missions. The first one is attract. How can we attract more students into green chemistry programs? How can we raise awareness in high schools, in general publics, and among companies? And we are running many initiatives focused on visibility and outreach of green chemistry. The second one is train. This is the core of our project, training students to become future professionals through innovative teaching method, share educational resources and equipment, and also a close collaboration with industry. And support. This last part focuses on lifelong learning and continuous professional training, helping employees to upskill and adapt the evolving challenges of the chemical sector. So the official launch of the Chimie Verte Academy took place last December, and we had the great honor of having Professor John Warner as our sponsor for this event. We are truly proud and delighted to welcome him back today. And just to show you some action of the Chimie Verte Academy at the international level, we organized a panel discussion with Beyond B9 during the International Symposium on Green Chemistry in La Rochelle last May. And this event was a wonderful moment of dialogue between academia, industry, and youth. And I would like to thank also Juliana, that is probably in the audience, and all the contributors who helped make the session possible. And during the same symposium, our 5 universities also signed the Green Chemistry Commitment, officially joining this very attractive global network. And I know that it is something that is particularly meaningful to John Warner.
Thank you.
So I will stop here because, of course, we are all here today to listen to Professor John Warner, one of the 2 founders of the 12 principles of green chemistry. So John will guide us through the origins of green chemistry, its impact, and perhaps most importantly, its future. So it is really an honor to have him with us today, sharing his vision, experience, and insights. And just before giving him the floor, just a quick reminder, you can write your questions at any time in the Q&A section directly on Zoom. And you can also upvote the questions you find most interesting. And at the end of the John's presentation, we will take a selection of those questions and address them directly in live. So John, thank you again. And the floor is yours now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here. And if at the end I don't get time to answer everybody's questions, I will follow up with an email answering those questions. So thank you. It's my honor to be part of this very important meeting. Can you verify that I am correctly sharing my slides? So thank you.
Yes,
So
yes.
I no longer have a beard. So in previous videos, I look different because I shaved my beard, but I am still John Warner. So hello. Again, it's my pleasure to be here, and I want to share with you some thoughts about a journey through the meaning, impact, and future. So the way that I look at it is there are so many approaches in sustainability: responsible care, safe and sustainable by design, resilient systems thinking, limits to growth, UN SDGs, circular economy, biomimicry, ecology of commerce, cradle to cradle, planetary boundaries. There are so many approaches. And what makes me very sad is that we're in a society where someone has to say, this is the correct approach. This is the wrong approach. We need new principles of this. We need new principles of this. This is bad. This is good. And I think that's one of the reasons we humans struggle with sustainability, because all of these approaches are good. All of these approaches are wonderful. The world is facing a diversity of problems. We humans are a diverse species of people, so we need all these different approaches, and we need passion, people who are passionate. So if someone says, I like this approach, instead of telling them, no, you should do it differently, we need to embrace one another and help. I've been doing this for nearly 40 years. I go to sustainability conferences. I'm a member of the Club of Rome. Back in the 1970s, with the publication of Limits to Growth, arguably is one of the beginning discussions of sustainability. And still now in 2025, most of the conferences I go to, most people are talking about why we should care about sustainability. They talk about climate change, petroleum in the environment, plastics, and things like that. And this is important. And then there's a lot of people talking about what we should do. We should do LCAs, we should do the UN SDGs, we should do this, we should do this. And that's important. But the urgency and the metrics aren't actually addressing the problem. They're describing and measuring the problem. So what we really need to do is we also need to focus on how we do sustainability. And that, I think, is the unique place that green chemistry plays. So if you want to work on the UN SDGs, you use green chemistry. If you want to do responsible care, you do green chemistry. If you want to work on social, economic, ethical disparities, you use green chemistry to invent technologies. And so it's worthwhile to see, how did we get to where we are today, and how does it work? Now, I don't claim to have any gifted insight. I don't claim to have the answers to the world's problems. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've come to look at the world in a certain way. And with a little bit of vulnerability, I will share that with you. But if I ever sound presumptuous saying, this is the way you should think, that is not who I am. I am just sharing what works with me. The way I look at it is, we humans, we take natural resources and we extract molecules and ingredients, right? We take mining and we do agriculture, and we take nitrogen from air, we take fossil deposits, and we take water, and we extract them from natural resources. Then when we have these things together, then we do chemistry. We chemists practice our art, and we manipulate the molecular structure of these materials, and we turn the molecules into materials and components. So we will take the hematite, chromite, and coal, and we'll turn it into stainless steel. We'll take the molasses and starch from agriculture, the petroleum from fossil deposits, and we'll create a molecule, react that molecule, and ultimately make something like an adhesive. Or maybe we'll take a sodium chloride and petroleum and make this dione, and take molasses and starch and natural gas and make butylamine, combine them together and make a pigment. Or maybe we do the same thing with other natural resources that have been converted to molecules and ingredients, and we'll make a polymer like ABS. Okay, so now we have all these materials, and we've done all this chemistry. The next step is we want to combine them together. We don't want to do chemistry. We just want to mix things together. Okay, and so we want to manufacture products. And so we'll take the polymer ABS and the blue pigment, and we'll mix them and make a pigmented polymer. And then we'll take that and we'll injection mold it and make some kind of object like that. And we'll do the same thing. We'll take metal, stainless steel, and we'll cut pieces out. And then we'll combine it with the adhesive, and maybe we make a pair of scissors. Think about all of the molecules, all the transformations, just to make a simple pair of scissors. All right, now we want our products to stay in use and reuse for as long as possible. Okay, so imagine if our pair of scissors lasted forever. We give them to our children give them to those children, their children give them. Well, that would violate the laws of thermodynamics. We have this thing called entropy, and inevitably, the product is going to break. And when the product breaks, what we want to do is we want to first not do chemistry, but just disassemble it again so that we can reassemble it. And so we want to mechanically recycle in what I call the assemble-disassemble system. All right. So imagine that we take our broken pair of scissors and we solvent extract the adhesive. We melt out the plastic. We melt out the metal. Then we take them and we recombine them. We remake the glue. We remake the parts. And then we combine them together. And there we have it. We've remade our pair of scissors. Wouldn't that be amazing? But here's the problem. In 2025, we don't know how. Every time we melt the plastic, every time we mechanically recycle something, we actually do chemistry. We break the polymers, we break the fibers, because of, again, there is this thing called entropy. So although we may say we need a circular economy, we must recycle products, the sad fact is that in 2025, we don't really know how. We might be able to do a small amount in a laboratory, but we haven't yet invented technologies that are scalable that can do this in the real world. Okay, so that's what an opportunity to be a chemist. I hope I am speaking to people today that one day may invent the way to do this. It's not that we don't want to, we haven't figured out how. The same thing now, when we have the materials and components, wouldn't it be good if we could reverse that chemistry? And this I call the materials metabolism. If you think about it, this is how nature works. In biology, we make molecules and we break molecules in the same cell. We disassemble and we assemble. We humans, we can't take, the polymer here, reverse the polymerization, reverse the chemistry, and go back to these materials. We don't know how. We haven't invented it yet. We can't take the pigment and reverse that chemistry. We don't know how. We can't take the polymer, depolymerize it, and reverse it. We haven't invented how. And I don't know that we'd want to, but even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to reverse stainless steel back to the ores. I don't think we want to. So again, I hope I'm talking to people who will one day enable society to do these things. Because right now we can ask industry, you must do this, but if we haven't invented how, then we can't. Now, here we have the things that have made it this far. Now, the things that are this far, we want them to degrade back into the natural resources. We want them to go back. And so this is a regeneration cycle, extraction and degradation. So we want to take these organic materials and we want to convert them back to water, ammonia, carbon dioxide, so that we can remake the agricultural materials. Wouldn't that be great? But right now in 2025, 90 to 95% of the materials that we use in our society, we don't have ways of having them biodegrade. We haven't invented materials that are capable of biodegradation yet. We need to invent it. So then finally, the last thing is we want to maintain stable ecosystems. We want to keep them. And so for me, stable ecosystems in my happy place are things like this, but we all may see different things. But the idea here is that look at how complicated this was for a pair of scissors. All right. Look at all those, and I left a lot of steps out, but look at all the molecular transformations that we employed to manufacture the pair of scissors, and then what we would do imagination-wise if we could reverse it. Can you imagine how difficult it would be for a solar panel, or for an electronic circuit, or for an automobile? We chemists, we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of invention we have to do. So this isn't a circle. To me, I look at it as a pendulum, okay? And going clockwise is the human-built world. We create natural materials and we make products for our society. And then going anti-clockwise, we're returning things back to nature. But it's not one big loop. Sometimes we want to use and reuse. Sometimes we want to assemble and disassemble. Sometimes we want to molecularly reprocess. Sometimes we want them to degrade. And so depending on the purpose of the material and its molecularity, we may want to do different things. But we have to invent how. Okay. And so this overlap on the bottom, in my opinion, is a mathematical calculation of sustainability. This overlap between the human-built world and the natural world is what we are trying to minimize. We'll never make it zero, but we have to ever be better at making it less. Okay. But that's not all. The other thing is that we got to have humility. Nobody is smart enough to do this perfect. What's going to happen is when we manufacture products, it is inevitable that some material is going to leak into the environment. It's going to have emissions and we'll lose some sustainability. When we do synthesis and reprocessing, some of it's going to leak into the environment and we'll lose more sustainability. When we do extraction, we'll get things into the environment that will leak and we'll lose more sustainability. So it's not just the things that happen that we plan, but it's also we have to be concerned about the things that we don't plan. So you know how to make this go away? You know how to solve this problem? Is if we take the waste materials, if we take the emissions and we capture them and we use them as feedstocks. Wouldn't that be amazing? But in 2025, we don't know how yet. We need to invent this. I hope I'm talking to people who are going to spend a lot of their time finding out how. And so what we need to do is we need to invent technologies that allow people to change their behavior. People say, oh, we just need to reduce consumption. Let's reduce consumption. The problem is if we reduced consumption, wealthy countries, well, they could do that, no problem. But poor countries, they can't reduce. So we don't have the ability. We need to invent new technologies that allow us to reduce consumption. We can't do it with the current portfolio of products. And we have to invent technologies that are just intrinsically in harmony with nature, so that if something does get out into the environment, instead of it being toxic and causing a problem, it just degrades. So it's not one or the other. It's not that everything should be recyclable. It's not that everything should be biodegradable. We need to use intelligence to figure out when we can keep things in whatever loop is best. So to do this, all of this has to be reinvented. Albert Einstein said, no problem can be solved at the same level of awareness that created it. If we keep doing chemistry the way we've been doing chemistry for the last 200 years, we're not going to solve this problem. So we need to reimagine how we do chemistry. All right. And so how do we look at all the products that we want in our society and look at the UN SDGs? I think the UN SDGs are the best way to frame this. When someone says to me, oh, John, only 3 or 4 of the UN SDGs involve chemistry, those are fighting words. I will argue that all 17 of the UN SDGs are going to require us inventing technologies. We can't make poverty go away just by thinking about it. We're going to have to create materials that create jobs to make sure that people can make things and not hurt themselves, not hurt their communities, and keep people safe. And so if we don't approach this from a mechanistic chemistry level, we may solve UN SDG 6 and then cause more damage in 14. Then we'll work on 14 and we'll cause damage in 11. Then we'll work on 11 and we'll cause damage in 3. So if we don't do this understanding chemistry, we'll just keep creating problems as we solve others. And so we need to figure out how to put this together. But here's the problem. To get a degree in chemistry, most universities in the world don't have any training for people who get degrees in chemistry. If you look at what people learn to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a doctorate in chemistry or material science, very few programs teach how do you anticipate whether a molecule might hurt humans? How do you anticipate whether a molecule might hurt the environment? Maybe a little bit of our training is how do you look up what is known about a known molecule? But what if you're inventing something new? How do you know before you make it if it's going to be okay? And so that is the point of green chemistry. So Paul Anastas and I now almost 30 years ago, actually more than 30 years ago, back around 1990, 1991, said we need to find a way to create a new aspect of chemistry that focuses on mechanisms, not a philosophy, not a sociology, but a mechanistic science. Okay. And so although we started this in 1990, 1991, we wrote a book, and back then it took longer for books to come out. This book came out in 1998. And I'm always amazed. I've got to tell you, it always makes me laugh when someone comes to me and says, what is green chemistry? You know, it's very confusing. I don't know what green chemistry is. And I say, oh my goodness, there is a book. There's a chapter in the book. What is green chemistry? So, yes, people may not intuitively know what it is, but there are so many fields of science. There are so many fields of knowledge that I have no idea what they are. You pick up a book and you read the book. And so for me, I'm always amazed when people say, oh, it's confusing. I don't know what green chemistry is. Read the book. And in the book, there's the definition: utilization of a set of principles that reduce or eliminate the use or generation of hazardous substances in the design, manufacture, and application of chemical products. The point here is that we want to invent technologies that are intrinsically in harmony with nature, that are intrinsically safe, so that we don't have to pay to control exposure and pick things up afterwards. And then to help people, we have the 12 principles to expand that, to help them see how does it fit into different things. You won't see climate change in the principles. You won't see plastics in the ocean. You won't see things about ethics or things about economics, because this is a mechanistic science. Tomorrow, we may come up with a new issue that faces the world. We don't need to rewrite the principles. The principles are a mechanistic science that adapts to whatever the new, the today, and the old issues are. So I have been so honored and so amazed that the world has reacted so well. This book has been translated into about 15 different languages. I've been to almost 95 countries, meeting kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers, but I'm just a name on a book. I'm not important. What's important is the hundreds, maybe thousands of people that are doing green chemistry. Many of them in France, listening to me now, being part of this program. That's what's changing the world. Not the book, not me, but all the people working in the lab inventing these technologies. But here's my concern. If everyone in the world tomorrow woke up and said, all we're going to do is sustainability, I believe only about 10% of the technologies exist. 90% of the technologies haven't been invented yet. Okay. And so there are some things that are emerging, but right now in 2025, I would argue 80%, maybe 85, haven't been invented yet. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a way of doing things where maybe someone in a lab made 22 milligrams on a microscope slide for 75,000 euro. Yes, that's going to be good, but it's not going to be scaled and solve problems for the world. And so what I'm talking about are things that can be done at scale. We have a lot of work to do. Okay, so to me, the barrier to green chemistry and sustainability is not desire. Yes, government policies are important, laws are important, but at the end of the day, the biggest barrier is invention. And we got to ask ourselves, are we doing a good job? And I feel we need to reinvent how we invent. Now, here's the scary statistic. In 1990, there are different ways of coming up with this number, but approximately in 1990, 12% of invested R&D made its way to commercial products. Now in 2025, it's less than 2%. We as a society have become less efficient at taking things from the lab and bringing them to manufacturing. So at the very time we need to do this better to solve these problems, we're not. Okay, and so we need to look at things differently. Now, I'm going to share with you how I look at it. The way I look at it is there are infinite possible molecules, infinite possible products we can work with. And there are infinite potential products we could make. Many, many different things. And so it's almost head-explodingly complicated. I love Lord of the Rings, J.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. It's like crossing the land of Mordor. It's very, very difficult for people to imagine. How do you connect infinite molecules with infinite products? But here's the secret. Although there are infinite molecules and there are infinite products, there's actually a finite number of mechanisms. Think about it. Things stick together, things stretch, things are colored, things have a smell. You start listing them, there's maybe 60, 70, then it's going to start being difficult. And so if we focus our attention on the mechanisms, it changes everything. And so the way I look at it is a product is defined by a material property. That is the quantifiable implication of mechanisms: color, flexibility, hardness, whatever. Now, what makes a property? A material property is made by a material mechanism. It's an oversimplification to call this engineering, but it's an intermolecular process between more than one molecule, or an intramolecular process over a nanometer in a polymer, like crystallinity, chain mobility, Young's modulus, hints and parameters. Still not a molecule, but a material mechanism is created by molecular mechanisms. That is a single molecule thing that's going on, or under a nanometer in a polymer. It's like bond rotation, van der Waals interactions. Now we can look at a molecule, ask ourselves what mechanisms, then what material mechanisms, what properties. Oh, we could make these products. Or we can say, how do I make this product? I need these properties. I need these mechanisms. I need these materials. Now, all of a sudden, there is a logical way to connect the fundamental chemistry with the applications. And if you want to do sustainability, put it on the list. But if you don't know the mechanism of flammability, if you don't know the mechanisms of toxicity, how in the world are you going to invent something that doesn't do it if you haven't been taught those mechanisms? So what is critical, and why I am so proud of what's going on in France, is that you have a group of people that have said, yes, we must add this to what it means to learn chemistry. Okay, so we can use good old-fashioned intuition to go between these verticals, or we could use new computation AI tools. And now the thing is I could use this to invent the next Apple product, or I could use humility and realize we humans have been doing chemistry for maybe 200 years or so. Nature has been doing chemistry for 3.8 billion years. So maybe with humility, we should ask nature, how would nature make an Apple product? And ask ourselves, how is the water vapor barriers constructed? How is viscosity controlled in nature? How are ions crossing membranes in nature? And if we can, with a little bit of humility, learn how nature has done things over the billions of years, then apply that to next generation products, now we can start doing things. Okay. And I'm hoping that I'm talking to people right now that are going to make these next inventions. But we got to remember, it's not just what the technology does that matters. It's what the technology is. I can make a solar panel, but if I use toxic reagents or depleting resources, it's still a problem. Okay. So we need to not only worry about the sustainable thing that the product does, but also, is the material itself that the product is made of, also, is that sustainable? So it's a lot of work. All right. And so in 2007, my wife and I, we were both professors at the university. We resigned because we felt we could help academia better by being on the outside. And so our vision is we envision a world where the chemical building blocks can be health and safety for humans in the environment. Amy, my wife, started the nonprofit organization Beyond Benign, and I started a laboratory where I invent products. Okay. My lab there's two of them north of Boston in Massachusetts, the US. There's a lab in Andover, Mass, and a lab in Woburn, Mass. And I have a very small group of people. I've never had more than 20 people working in my lab. And I've never had a lot of money. Okay, I've always had just a little bit of money getting by. And with a small group of people and a small bit of money, we have filed over 360 patents. We have invented technologies for almost 50 companies. Now, I never name the companies that I work with. These companies issued press releases. Oh, we worked with John, wanted to invent something. And we've started a bunch of companies. We have a pharmaceutical company. We have a cosmetic company. We have an asphalt paving company, a photovoltaic company, a water harvesting company, a biomaterials company, a photo flow reactor company, and another pharmaceutical services company. So people say, oh, green chemistry is more expensive. Well, these products are on the market successfully. Oh, it takes too long. We've done all of this work with a small group of people in a very short period of time. My statistics, from an idea in my head to a product on the market, we're averaging about 2.5 years. So green chemistry doesn't just make it moral and ethical, it actually accelerates the time to market to get things to the real world. That's the secret that I don't think people understand. It makes you faster and it makes you more creative. Okay, so that's the message. But what keeps me awake at night and what worries me is the fact that I need a lot of competition. I need a lot of people doing this. And so we need more people doing this. And so my personal hero is, and I'm biased, is my wife, and you've all met Juliana. The company Beyond Benign is changing the world more than any nonprofit that I know of in my life. They are doing so much for K through 12, for community building. But one thing they're doing is what's called the Green Chemistry Commitment, where they're asking colleges and universities to sign a commitment saying they will bring green chemistry into the curriculum, and then the community helps each other find ways to do it. And here we are now with this green chemistry commitment. Just today, I'm in India. I'm talking to you right now from Mumbai, India. And just this morning, a university in India was the 253rd global signer of the green chemistry commitment. So I am super optimistic that we are going to solve these problems. Not me, but I'm so optimistic because of you, because of the people listening to me today. Because just imagine you're working in a lab, you're pouring beakers and flasks, and you invent something that's never existed before. And hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people will no longer be exposed to some hazardous material because you invented something better. What could be more powerful? What could be more important? So I close by thanking you for what you're doing, and particularly in the green chemistry program in France is just amazing. So I am so happy to be able to share my thoughts with you. But again, it's you that should be I should be thanking, because the world is we're going to solve these problems because you're going to find a way. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and I'd be happy to take some questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, I go to the question. Really, thank you for this very inspiring talk. So we have some questions. So I will choose. The first one is about energy and recycling. So the question is, what about the energy budget of recycling?
Yes.
Mechanical and chemical processes still need petrol.
Well, here's the way that I look at it. It's 6 p.m. now. It's now almost 7 p.m. in France. Maybe you've already eaten. You certainly had lunch. What happened when you ate lunch? You ate food. You took carbohydrates and you turned them to sugars. You took protein, you turned them into amino acids. You took lipids and you turned them into fatty acids. But think about it. At exactly the same time you were eating, you were growing hair. You were growing skin. You were making blood cells. You were creating energy. Nature doesn't separate the assembly and the disassembly at the molecular level. We humans do that. And that's why we're energy deficient. That's why we can't be sustainable. So you're absolutely right. As long as we keep doing it the way we're doing it. But my dream is one day you go to a building and you're confused. You say to yourself, are they recycling in this building or are they manufacturing in this building? When we can't tell, when they're happening at the same time, and we're trapping not just the enthalpy, but the entropy of all of this molecularity, then all of a sudden we're not dependent on these energetics. We're always going to need to use a little. But right now, we go to one building, we recycle, we go to another building, and we manufacture, and we're using amazing amount of energy for both. Put them together. Nature has been doing that for 3.8 billion years. We can do it. It's going to take time. We're going to have to invent it, but we can do it.
Okay, so Another question, what are some of the most promising areas where green chemistry can have an immediate impact today?
Thank you. I think that there's two ways of answering it. What types of chemistry or what types of products? What I'm finding right now is that the packaging industry is spending a lot of time and effort looking at sustainability. And it kind of makes sense. People want to buy the product. They don't care about the package. And so if the package is unsustainable, it's like, oh my goodness, why do we do this? So from a industry perspective, I think the packaging industry right now has got the most attention. There's a lot of work to do, but I think that that's one. And if you think about it, all kinds of materials, polymers, we need to move into biomaterials. We need to look at what makes things be water barriers, what makes things be oxygen barriers. So there's a lot of work going on. But I think that the world of materials and packaging is one example. But then when we talk about what kind of materials, I think the kind of materials is finding ways to use biomaterials, particularly biopolymers. And what we want to do is we don't want to replace a petroleum polymer with a biopolymer. We want to replace the petroleum polymer and all the additives, the antioxidant, all the pigments and everything. And if we can make a biomaterial that doesn't require all of those additives, now we can be cost dependent, we can be more practical, and it changes things. So those are an example of the type of chemistry. But I would argue, if you are passionate about some chemistry, you should do that chemistry and make it as sustainable as possible. Don't let anyone tell you what you're doing is not important. Something else is more important. The world has so many problems that we need to get them all. And we won't know tomorrow what the most important problem is. All we know is what is the problem today. So we need to do that. So my final thing is, although we could talk about molecules and products, the most important thing we should do is focus on education. If we train people and we trust people and we give people the skills, then every material they work on, every product they work on will get better over time. So I believe in people. And so that's why what you're doing in the Green Chemistry Academy is so important.
Okay, we have another question from Luke, that is a PhD student. Based on your experience in industry, do you have advice for academics on how to turn the academic research into real products?
Yes. So I feel very strongly that we need people in academia to spend a little bit more time in industry so that we understand the practical real world. In the United States, so I can't speak for France, I don't know France, but in the United States, about 85% of our students get jobs in industry. But very few professors have ever worked in industry. And so I think that's why there's a hard time. Now, it's important. We need amazing academia. We need amazing publications in journals. But that publication in a journal, the pathway to getting it to the real world, we need more people inventing ways to do that. It's not just a box, you put it in, push a button, now you have a product. In the same way you invent the chemistry that gets a publication, you must invent the way to turn it into a product. But it's much less elegant. There are no journals to do that. There are no awards to do that. But if we're going to solve problems for society, we're going to have to spend more time focusing on that. So I look at it, there is the materials ecology. We look at how molecules move around the earth. But I also look at what I call the intellectual ecology. How do ideas move around the earth? And so we go from basic research to applied research to scale up to development to manufacturing. We need to put that together. How do we make molecules and how do we make ideas and be more thoughtful of how to put them together? So Academia should be working closer with industry. Industry should be working closer with academia. Nothing could be more important right now because the world needs us to get products in people's hands, not just in a journal, but in people's hands.
And you speak about academy and industrial industry. What do you think about maybe another future actor, the artificial intelligence for green chemistry processes?
Okay. I feel that it's going to be very important and we need to be working on it. I don't think it's quite ready yet. There are some people saying, "Oh, look at my AI can do this." I think that we need to still keep working hard. And someday it's going to be really good. I think one of the things that I'm worried about, some people are overselling AI too early. And so there's a lot of investment. There's a lot of people thinking AI is ready today. And there's going to be a problem in a year or so. There's going to be a bubble that's going to explode because people are going to be mad that they spent so much money and it's not ready yet. After that, we can now hopefully work and get it to work. So I believe it's important. It's one of the most important things we should be working on, but we need to have integrity and honesty because there's a few people that are misleading society to believe AI can do things it's not ready to do yet.
I have also another question. You know that in Europe we are working on safe and sustainable by design frameworks, and we can imagine some connection with green chemistry. What is your opinion?
Well, first of all, one of the definitions of green chemistry is safe and sustainable by design. That is the whole point. And so again, this is just people being people. One of the problems in our society, and look at how many people are publishing principles of this, principles of this. And that's what I said when I started. Everybody wants their own new thing. My idea is better than, and we need to build on things. We don't just need to take that one down, put this one up, take that one down, put this one up. I think safe and sustainable by design has a lot of good aspects to it. But like everything, there are some problems with it, and we need to improve some of the problems with it. I worry that safe and sustainable by design makes the assumption that most things have already been invented. And unfortunately, I feel most things haven't been invented. So you can't tell a company, use this technology if this technology doesn't exist. And that's the difference. And so anybody can tell industry, don't do this, don't do that. But the hard thing is to say, do this instead. And so as safe and sustainable by design starts to focus more on how do we create the new technologies, not just make the bad things go away, but how do we make the things we want have happen? We need to have policies to help in universities have the resources to invent these things. They're not going to happen just because we want them to. People need the skills to invent them.
Another important question about tools to measure, to evaluate the impact.
Yes.
What are the best? What are your opinion to evaluate?
We need to know how to use these tools because we don't want to be wrong. If I say something is less toxic, I can't say just because I think it's less toxic. We need to know, how do we measure toxicity? If I say my technology uses less energy, I can't just say it. I need to know, how does it use less energy? So we need tools to measure. It is super important. And right now we don't have enough. Okay, so right now we have not enough tools. And so using tools sometimes incorrectly because we need to invent better tools. However, we need to remember, if I'm a runner, say that I'm a runner, and I get the most expensive, best stopwatch, and I learn how to measure how fast I run, having the best stopwatch in the world will not make me run faster. So we need to focus on how do we measure, but we got to not forget, we also have to focus on how do we invent the next material so we have things to measure. So they go hand in hand. It's not just one thing. It's not just if everybody says, let's invent ways to measure, who's going to be left to do the invention? So we need to collaborate. We need to work together.
Yes, we speak about materials, but we have also a question about what will be the green sources of energy to have a chemical research in terms of production, storage, and use.
So my attitude for this, and again, remember, I'm just a person sharing my opinions. I don't claim to have the correct answer to these things. So I just want to make sure I'm not claiming I am right. This is the way I look at it. I look at the last 100 years, and the mistake we made is we put all of our hope on one material. We say energy is going to be petroleum. We should never make that mistake again. We need to have a diversity of ways to create energy because we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, what political situation is going to happen, what's going to happen in the world, what does, things. And so we need to have many different approaches because maybe in one country, one approach makes sense, in another country, another. So what we need to do is be sensitive to local economies and have the energy sources be paired with local economies so that they are resilient to global changes. So that means there's a lot of room for everybody to invent many different things because we need a diversity. We should never, ever pick one and just do one, or we're just going to have the same problem in a generation.
Okay, so we are almost at the end. Maybe to finish, I have one. Sorry, it was a numerous question between humor and admiration. So when will you and Paul Anastas receive the Nobel Prize for elaborating the theory and practices in green chemistry?
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you for saying that. But I get it. I got to be honest. Yesterday, I was not looking at my phone waiting for it to ring. And if something happens in green chemistry, it's for the thousands of people that are doing green chemistry. There's not one, two people that matter. There's so many people. So if ever gets it, they need to, for the first time ever, give 100 people the Nobel Prize because there's just so many people doing amazing things.
Oh, thank you. It's the time to finish this webinar. Thank you so much, John, for this truly inspiring talk and for taking the time to answer to the questions. To all the participants, I would like to say thank you also for your question. We have many questions again, but we can work on this question later. The recording of this webinar will be soon available, so do not hesitate to share it. And have a wonderful end of day, everyone. And thank you again, John, for being today with us and for your continuous inspiration to the global green chemistry community.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.